Hey guys, and welcome back to another tutorial video. If you have stumbled across this video, then it is very likely that your Chevy Equinox is giving you some engine trouble. The problems that I was having, some of the symptoms that I saw, is I would go to start the engine and was having just all sorts of issues. The most obvious symptom was a very rough idle, where the car was shaking. Simultaneously, we had the check engine light come on. And then here in the message center, we had a message saying that engine power has been reduced, and then it would scroll over to a message that says service your StabiliTrak. All in all, it was not a very comforting sight to start your car and see that many issues go wrong all at once. In Google research, I didn't really see a video that covered how to fix this. When I ran a code scanner, I believe the code I was getting was a P2176. It essentially is that the throttle position sensor that's in the engine is going bad. And so when you go to start your car, that sensor that regulates air intake, the fuel to air ratio, cannot regulate itself. It's getting bad data, and so the computer, the more it tries to balance, the more it throws everything out of whack. Fortunately, this repair is not too difficult. In my research online, finding the part seemed to be the hardest step. AutoZone didn't carry it. O'Reilly's didn't carry it. I had to order it online. But once we got the part in, the actual swap itself is not too difficult. It looks like we should be able to do it in 20 minutes or less. It sits on top of the engine, so accessibility is not too bad, and you shouldn't need any specialized tools to get this done. So let's go ahead and pop the engine, and I will show you what the next steps are. Okay, so we've got the engine popped here, and really quickly I wanted to show you what the replacement part will look like. I believe this part is called the engine control module, and if you're getting the P2176, it essentially means that the minimum throttle position sensor is not set. So when your car goes to idle, this butterfly valve that the computer is supposed to program where it sits doesn't get put in the right position. And so, as I was saying earlier, that butterfly valve being in the wrong position lets in too much air, not enough air. It just throws the whole system out of whack. And as the computer in your car tries to make the adjustments, it can't, because it doesn't know where this butterfly valve is positioned. So it can't make the proper adjustments, and your whole car goes haywire. So this is what the replacement part looks like. And I will have a link for where you can find that in the description of this video, where you can order it. It also, you need a gasket to go with that part. Once we strip it down, you'll see kind of what we're talking about. So to get to this part, you can see it sits right here. So it's right there on top of the engine. We don't have to go digging for it too far. We just need to remove the Ecotech box here that sits on top, and we should have some pretty clear access to it. So to remove this Ecotech box, there's just a couple of I guess hose clamps that you can undo with a flathead screwdriver. The first one is here, and then the second one is down here underneath. I don't know if you can see it, but it sits right here, almost right on top of that part that we're going to be replacing. So by loosening up those two hose clamps, you should be able to do that and then lift up on the box. Also, you will need to unplug this little hose here that just comes out like that. And then if you lift up, this Ecotech box sits on 4 posts, and it should just release once you have those hose clamps off. So let's go ahead and get that off and show you what the next step looks like. Okay, so you can see that after we have that box removed, we have almost completely unrestricted access to the part that we need to replace. It's just held on by these 4 bolts that are a 10mm socket. Those can go ahead and be loosened. And then you have this electronic cable that is also connected. You can remove that by just squeezing down on that control button or that release lever there, and pulling straight off, and it will disconnect. So we've got that part disconnected. Let's go ahead and loosen those 4 bolts there and show you what the next step looks like. Okay, so loosening those 4 bolts took about 2 minutes. We've got that old module off. You can see that that butterfly valve is, it's dark color. I don't know that that's necessarily a bad thing. On the back side, there's quite a bit of dirt and gunk. I had tried cleaning this to prolong the life, and it bought me a month or 2. But honestly, it's just not worth the hassle anymore, and so it's getting replaced. So the old one can just be set aside. You can see here that there's an old gasket. I'm going to go ahead and replace that just because I'm here and I can, and it's cheap. So we're going to roll out the old gasket and then set in the new gasket. And it should be as easy as that. This is one that it can come out with your fingers. You just grab it and pull. Looking at this old gasket, it looks like it's in pretty good shape. I honestly don't see too many cracks, tears. It honestly would have been fine, but I'm just going to go ahead and replace it anyway. So now we're going to go ahead and take our new module and just do those steps in reverse order. We've got our gasket put back in, and so we're going to go ahead and set it there and tighten up those 4 bolts. So let me go ahead and do that, and we'll show you what the next step looks like. Okay, so we've got the new module put in here. We've tightened up those 4 bolts, and I just tightened them. I didn't use a torque wrench or anything, just tightened them until I felt that they were snug. Don't over tighten it. You'll be able to see that it's seating tightly there on the engine, and so you should be good. Now that we've got that, we can go ahead and reconnect that electric connector and push it in. You should hear a click, and if you don't hear a click, then listen closer. If you pull back on it, it should not come off on its own. And that's how you'll know that that's installed correctly. Now that we've got this, we can remove this temporary protective cover. Give that to the kids as a frisbee. We'll go ahead and put that Ecotech box back on. And we should have this ready to go. And the car should be fixed. So to put the Ecotech box back on, you can leave that off till the end. You've got these 2 mounting bolts in the back. You're just going to want to go ahead and line up that. And then here on the front, you've got this hose that goes onto the module we just replaced. So if you line that up, it should seat on the front and snap in the back. You'll kind of feel it lock on there. Reconnect the little hose on the side. Reconnect that hose. And then tighten those 2 hose clamps. And your car is reassembled and ready to go. So let's go ahead and fire it up, and we should have cleared that code, and our engine should be running smoothly. Okay, so we have closed the hood, we're back in the car, engine started, and everything as far as the engine idling feels good. That rough idle is completely gone. Here in that center message screen, it's back to showing me regular messages. There is nothing about engine power being reduced or servicing the StabiliTrak. Now you can see that the check engine light is still on. That's normal, especially where the computer had an error so recently. That can take up to about 50 miles of driving to clear sometimes. So that should disappear on its own after a day or 2 of normal driving. If it doesn't, then you could take it back to an AutoZone, O'Reilly, have them run the code again, but that should clear on its own. If you guys have any questions, please feel free to ask them. I will do my best to help you out. If this video was helpful, I'd really appreciate it if you liked and subscribed. Helps me make more videos like this. Appreciate you guys watching, and you have a wonderful day.